All right, everybody ready? Cool. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Is that really what you're doing? Yeah. You're filming me right here? Yeah. First day new studios. Really the fourth day new studios. 3 days last week. First day new studios. That parking spot I got. The other one is closed for Lebatard. Quite frankly, I should be here. Lebatard should be there. We're gonna have a heater. Yes. Tired of this shit. He is 4 inches closer to the doorway than I am.
It's unacceptable. We can renegotiate. You can have that one.
Whoa. Get that on camera? Good.
We start in the obvious place after playoff basketball this weekend with Keldon Johnson of the Spurs missing a basketball game because he had gas station barbecue. And he says he's going right back. He says he doesn't care that it made him sick. Getting sick off of gas station barbecue sounds truly awful. And I ask all of you, I've asked you this question before, would you get sushi at a gas station? What is the food where you guys draw the line? Because I'm being told that in Texas, I guess this place is called Buc-ee's.
Makes sense.
That the barbecue is good. That this is not something that regularly happens. But if you tell me, you have to understand, I'm used to Miami gas stations. And I just think that you are playing with disease fire to have anything that's elaborate at a gas station that isn't just processed in a bag that's hermetically sealed. You are playing with fire if you go barbecue at a gas station. Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Would you have barbecue at a gas station?
If you go to a Miami gas station, you'll probably see a tequeño that voted for Dole in '96.
That means it's old.
There are some things. Yes, thank you, Amin. Amin is in with us because we want his basketball expertise. He was at Clippers Suns. A lot of things happened this weekend that I think people weren't expecting. Basketball doesn't produce a whole lot of things that people weren't expecting.
You weren't expecting that from the Suns? I mean, where you been?
I mean, they didn't have Kevin Durant, and the Clippers are hobbled.
No, they did have Kevin Durant.
I'm saying Durant. They had Kevin Durant.
It was a quiet 27 points.
I'm saying that what Stugotz is saying of the Suns and their reputation was pre-Kevin Durant.
Oh, yeah. No, now they got Kevin Durant, Chris Paul. This is like Stugotz's dream, right? To watch this team reach an element and fail miserably at home in front of a packed-out capacity crowd.
With Russell Westbrook dominating the game while going 3 for 19.
It's amazing. It was a sight to behold, Dan, because the whole game we're like, oh my God, he's playing terrible, but he's doing things like, oh, he's defending. He brought an unmistakable energy. I mean, that he won them the game with his energy.
He had the quote after the game, at this position, humbly speaking, no one rebounds better than I do. And I just don't think that humbly speaking should be in the middle of that sentence.
Totally agree. I'll give you the segment to take that back. Kawhi Leonard won them the game.
No.
Kawhi Leonard won
what do you
them
have,
the game.
38? Who cares? It was Russell Westbrook, Stugotz. He brought the energy. He had the big block at the end on Booker. He had the big offensive rebound and shot 2 free throws that he made. He was so active, and he bothered Kevin Durant, I believe. I mean, Kevin Durant, of course, is the type of guy that'll come back next game and drop 50 and say, how bothered was I now? But he looked uncomfortable because Westbrook was a pest. He just kept working on him.
What do you think of that quote, at this position, humbly speaking, no one rebounds better than me?
Humbly speaking, Dan, I was 2 feet away from him when he said it.
Pestbrook.
Look at me, Louie.
Dan is so delighted. You guys don't know this. If you're listening, you're not watching on YouTube, shame on you. YouTube.com/lebatard and friends. But if you are watching, you see the glee in Dan's eyes because now he has like a soundboard thing that he can hit buttons. He doesn't have to wait for Mike or whoever's in the EP chair to hit buttons. He can hit his own buttons now.
Juju, please put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do you know what a flapper is? Yes or no? Jessica, you have removed portions of your costume. You have a giant fake cigarette. I don't know where the costume jewelry went. I don't know why you're aspiring to flapper.
This is like a great Gatsby era flapper outfit that was on my desk. Everyone got tuxedo T-shirts and top hats, and I got this little flapper outfit. So I'm not sure what the theme is today. I guess like Showtime in the new studio. Is that right?
Yes, we are.
So I have a fake cigarette.
We are celebrating these new studios. It will take. That's a thin boa feather boa that she's wearing of some sort. Billy, as the NHL playoffs get underway, Billy is very concerned. Thinks do I have this right? When I don't want to misrepresent you, that you think the NHL is in big trouble.
They have a problem, Dan. The NHL does. When you think of the NHL gang, what's the first thing you think of? Word association. What do you think?
Stanley Cup.
Ice.
Boom. Thank you, Mike Ryan. Stanley Cup. Now, if you go to google.com and you type in Stanley Cup, nary a line do we see Lord Stanley on there. You got to go down like 3 or 4 lines to find Lord Stanley. You know what I mean? Because Stanley Cups now are the Stanley Cup that people know about. You know about Stanley Cups are these giant metal cups. They have the straw. Everybody wants a Stanley Cup, and now this is the Stanley Cup that comes up when you search Stanley Cup. It was so confusing that the other day I was at my house and I was talking to my wife, and she said, "Hey, do we still have in the Stanley Cup in the fridge?" And I go, "Stanley Cup in the fridge? What the heck are you talking about, wife?" And then she said, "Oh, it's a Stanley Cup." So then I Googled Stanley Cup. I'm like, did I remember this wrong? Am I spelling Stanley Cup wrong? No. Stanley Cup now has replaced the Stanley Cup.
What is the origin story of the Stanley Cup? I haven't seen any of these cups.
There's a guy named Lord Stanley, and
not that Stanley Cup, the other one, the one that he speaks of.
By the way, I'm not in PR for the NHL, but if I was, I would have the Stanley Cup playoffs sponsored by Stanley Cup, without a doubt in my mind.
Seems to make sense.
Yeah.
The Stanley Cup wishes. The Stanley Cup's now bigger than the Stanley Cup, though.
Well, here's the thing. If you're the Stanley Cup, you're getting free advertising from the Stanley Cup, so you don't have to say the Stanley Cup. You don't have to pay for it.
The Stanley Cup doesn't need Stanley Cup to advertise for Stanley Cup. The Stanley Cup is the biggest thing right now on TikTok. The Stanley Cup and Water Talk.
At the same time, by the way, Billy, what you've described has happened before. It happened to the Abominable Snowman. He had Yeti on lock, and then all of a sudden Yeti comes out, and now you Google Yeti, you don't get Bigfoot, you don't get the Abominable Snowman, you get cups.
Can you please update me? I'm not familiar with this new cup that you're saying has replaced the actual and real and only Stanley Cup because it's metal with a straw?
Well, no, it's a great cup. Everybody wants one. It's a Stanley Cup. It's the, cup du jour right now. You get a Stanley Cup. In fact, I would kind of love a scenario where Stanley Cup sues the NHL for giving away the Stanley Cup, and then Lord Stanley loses Lord Stanley's name. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing about the old Stanley Cup. It's not going to keep your beverage cold for very long. The new Stanley Cup, the one that matters, that is going to keep your ice from melting for 48 hours. And you're going to stay hydrated. The old Stanley Cup wishes. You
know what I read about the Stanley Cup, and I don't know if they've covered this on Water Talk, and you can let me know.
Which Stanley Cup?
I've read that in the Stanley Cup now, the straws from the Stanley Cup, when you drink from those straws, you're using the same muscles that you use when you smoke a cigarette. So you could still get kind of the cigarette wrinkles just from drinking from the Stanley Cup.
That's why I like drinking from the other Stanley Cup. Just pour the champagne in there and just take it to the head.
The new popular Stanley Cup that you speak of, are they doing this on purpose? What's the history that it's called? Is the inventor Stanley, or are they trying to grift off of the hockey? Or the company is named Stanley and is making Stanley Cups with no sense of irony or no sense of hockey history?
Well, I don't think anyone thinks about hockey history when making.
Oh,
there you
look,
go.
we
Look,
have a
this
guest
is-
in the studio.
Right here. This is a Stanley Cup.
Hi,
Dan.
Lord Stanley.
So it's just Stanley since 1913, which now we're gonna have to look up Lord Stanley because
on
now we may get into a battle here.
Wait a minute. You're saying that this Stanley Cup is older than the original Stanley Cup?
Possibly.
That can't be
Hold
so.
on. I'm on it,
know.
guys.
That can't be right.
They're hedging off a lawsuit by putting that branding
They've
out
been
there.
around since 1913, I believe.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Frederick Stanley.
Martin was a prop comic.
Yeah.
New
Frederick-
Studios, Dana.
Frederick Stanley, the Earl of Derby, was born in 1841.
But when did they name the cup after him? You know what I mean? Because when you
Well-
were born, I mean, if you start a company in 1913, you're not born in 1900. I don't know any 13-year-olds starting a company.
The trophy was commissioned in 1892.
I don't believe that.
Okay, well that's my father's. That's how my father wins all the arguments.
Well played.
Either I don't know about that or I don't believe it.
think that's right,
it's
Dan.
I believe it's the state of discourse in America right now. I believe that all facts that get lost and don't become facts become not facts right there.
But hold on a second, because the NHL was founded in 1917. We can't have the NHL's trophy exist for 20-something years before the NHL did.
We
Well,
can't.
No.
Yeah, they were giving out
They
the
had
trophy.
pro hockey, but it wasn't technically the NHL. I will say that the Stanley Cup, the main Stanley Cup, was invented by a guy who was born over 100 years ago, William Stanley Jr., who forever changed the way we drink hot drinks. In 1913, he fused vacuum insulation and steel in a portable bottle. I don't know. That's
Wait,
to
he
me-
Wait, are they
invented the
partners?
thermos?
Are they partners here? Like,
He's
is
claiming
it?
he invented it.
Are you telling me that the Stanley Cup and the Stanley Cup are from the same place? Are they possibly in cahoots together
same-
as businesses? It seems like it's the same makers of things.
This Stanley dude was really busy.
Can I make a suggestion to the Stanley Cup company, the one that makes like the thermos that I'm holding? Because I'm not going to do it because it's going to make a giant mess. But if you flip one of these Stanley Cups upside down, it looks like the Stanley Cup that is
Really?
given away to the hockey.
Do we know if you're right?
That's true.
they
Look
should
at
just,
it.
they should just make upside down Stanley Cup trophy Stanley Cup thermoses, should they not?
Are you positive that these two businesses aren't somehow aligned? That Stanley's cups are the same as the makers of the Stanley Cup? That all of it is together? You're not positive about this, are you? We don't know?
I just looked into it by Googling Stanley Cup, NHL Cup, and I just realized those are probably not the right Google search terms. But I'll get back to you once I figure out a way
Guys,
to possibly figure this out.
Things have escalated.
What happened?
I'm on Etsy, and I'm seeing a bunch of these mugs being sold that are Stan Lee cups.
Wow.
Marvel.
Oh.
Jessica, do you have any idea what they're doing? We did 3 straight interviews, which I don't think are all going to run.
2 of them are running in Big Sur.
Yeah, we're running 2 in Big Suey, and then I think 1 for one of the hours. We haven't decided which one yet.
Sure, and Orlovsky ran Big Sur.
Mike wasn't in the other bathroom. I know because I didn't get a text in the shit chat. I would have gotten a text.
That's not even the thing that I was confused by, though. Stugotz also, while doing this and around doing this, all of a sudden, I can't get Stugotz interested in anything in the world.
Well, I would have, but I was dealing with a crisis.
Wow. A bit of a crisis.
It's a very powerful toilet.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. Just hit the flush button.
It's crazy.
And it didn't stop. And then there was an overflow situation.
Oh.
No. I didn't clog
clogged
it.
the
No,
toilet. Yeah,
no,
you clogged
no.
it.
I did not clog it.
Clogged.
No,
He
it
didn't
wasn't
clog
clogged.
it.
I believe
That shit went down like quick, like it was in an airplane. But the water didn't stop, and it's got a lot of water pressure.
Or rising.
Rising. It's like a very
It wasn't even
tall
rising.
swirl.
Really?
Just in the cylinder.
Yeah.
It's spraying around like one of those water park rides where it's just like a little toilet bowl, just constant
Those
stream
are
of
so
water.
scary.
It was a lot. There was a lot of water pressure there. So much pressure that I was watching it. It started cascading over, but not like a rising tide.
You clogged
just
it.
because I didn't clog
Like
it.
the
From Mike
the
Ryan to Michael
cyclonic.
Flatley.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Is there anything more terrifying at a friend's house than a toilet looking like it's about to overflow?
But this wasn't a clogging scenario.
You're talking about the
There's
cyclonic
just
action.
there's just a constant stream of powerful water.
Dan, if I may, have you ever stirred your coffee in a mug and then stirred it so vigorously that it creates this kind of whirlpool action, but even as the cone gets deeper in the middle, the sides rise higher and higher as it defies the very laws of physics itself?
No.
Well, I don't think it defies the laws of physics. I believe that is the law of physics.
That's what happens in Australia, right?
It's opposite.
Opposite.
No, it goes up.
You guys know when you see certain handles on toilets, you're like, this isn't gonna work, right?
Like buttons.
You see an older one, you're like, I don't know about this toilet.
Is
I
it
like
the
the
bigger
buttons.
circle or the smaller circle?
That's the.
Yeah.
Depends on what you got in the toilet.
I
It's
hit
the bigger circle, by the way.
always, every time.
Always the bigger
Just-
circle.
You're never wrong
Yes.
if you go bigger circle
Yeah,
every
Never,
time.
ever.
You're not supposed to do that, guys. There's a smaller circle for a reason. It could serve water.
No.
No, but sometimes they install it backwards, and then you don't know which is
In
the
Australia.
right one.
In
No, in
Hialeah?
Australia they install it the right way.
Always use the small one in Australia.
Really?
The thing that Stugotz did around, for some reason, needing to take off his tuxedo T-shirt in the first 9 minutes that he was wearing it is he wouldn't shut up. And again, I can't get him interested in anything happening in the world, but this is what he was doing. He was muttering to himself. He wasn't even talking. I'm not kidding when I say he wasn't even talking to anybody in particular.
You heard this?
He's talking about Jalen Hurts becoming the highest paid player in the NFL. Tony, what are you doing?
That's big
man.
news.
It was a big day for me. I almost felt like I signed the deal.
That's how he reacted.
You
You
and
should get a commission.
You
I
and
mean,
Kornheiser react to all news with, did I get this right publicly? Have I said something in public?
Oh, did he get it right?
I'm 2-0 today. The Heat and the Eagles.
Jalen Hurts, I don't believe you can claim a victory on being right on the Heat when you didn't want them in the playoffs and they just won game one by scoring more points than they ever scored in a playoff game. I don't think that makes you right unless you're stretching the definition of right.
The broken hand. It's a big thing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Tyler Hero's broken hand changed the entire complexity of the series.
So in
So
Tony's
does the game one win?
in Tony's world, if they hadn't made the playoffs, Tyler Hero would have both functioning hands right now.
I mean, it's a fact. It's not an opinion. That's fact.
He wouldn't have probably broken
be
his hand
intact.
diving
Right.
for a loose ball if
Diving,
he hadn't
please. What
been
are
in
we
a
doing here?
playoff.
Tony, he's going to be fine in a month. Like we didn't
No,
lose.
We don't know.
He says he's going to botch the surgery.
I didn't say that.
I
I
mean,
said that's happened before.
Jalen Hurts signed a 5-year, $255 million extension. $179 million of it is guaranteed. He also gets a no-trade clause, according to Adam Schefter. But Stugotz was muttering to himself, what is Burrow going to get? Because he's just doing, at all times, a sports radio show in his head.
Yep.
But here's the part that I didn't get the most from all of the behavior. What he kept saying over and over again was, Jalen Hurts just got all that money with an agent.
Yep. That's what I'm talking about, Dano. You heard that, huh? With an agent. Who's still unsigned? Lamar Jackson. Who doesn't have an agent? Lamar Jackson. Who deserves that kind of money? Lamar Jackson. Who would get it if he had an agent? Lamar Jackson.
Who doesn't have an agent?
Lamar Jackson.
Who's the quarterback for the Ravens?
Lamar, well, debatable.
Don't know yet whether he will be playing next season. It is strange, though, Stugotz, that you want to be so pro-agent.
It's weird. Yeah. It's really pro-Lamar Jackson. I want Lamar Jackson to get what Lamar Jackson
That's
deserves.
not pro-Lamar
and
Jackson.
I feel like he would have gotten it already had he had an agent.
You wandering around shirtless around here saying that Jalen Hurts got all this money with an agent is not allowed to be pro-Lamar Jackson.
I'll tell you what, Adam Schefter went out of his way to point out who the agent was, what group they're a part of. Like, it's in his report. He went out of his way, you know?
It's because that's where he got the information from.
Quid pro quo, baby.
I'm just saying.
Stugotz isn't pro Lamar Jackson. He's pro I told you so.
Yes.
That's what you're pro.
Right.
Like, you love the ability to say I told you
But
so.
what did he tell us so? Because he's had 70 different opinions on Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was the most brilliant businessman in the NFL the first 10 games of the season.
Yeah,
when
went
he didn't,
downhill from there, though. Got hurt and didn't have an agent. I mean,
why do you care? I
don't know.
No, but I asked this question seriously because I was thinking about this weekend, right? I believe that a great deal of the unhappiness everywhere in the world is that many, many people are spending a great part of their day going to jobs that they hate, that they actively hate. And that's going to basically have a terrible effect on anyone's mental health if they're constantly marching to a job that they do not like. And as it relates to this, my confusion is, why are you always counting other people's money so that you care? And I'm not just saying this of you. I'm saying of people watching sports where they care so much. This doesn't happen in any other industry. Some actors, you'll find out what they made for a movie, but nobody seems to care. In sports, we find out all the time, at least in part because there are agents who want everyone to know. And it creates just a corrosion because so many of the customers watching these games hate their own jobs. And they're watching people play for a living and don't understand these sums of money. And I ask you genuinely, people listening and you specifically, Stugotz, why do you care so much whether someone is, it was Jared Goff, it was Matthew Stafford, like it was Carson Wentz. There's always a new highest paid quarterback ever. It always makes a headline and I never care.
I'm just amazed, to be honest with you, that the numbers have gotten this high. That's, to be completely honest, $255 million. And I'm happy for Jalen Hurts. He had a great season. There were a lot of questions about him coming out of college. He parlayed it into the richest contract in NFL history. And now I wonder what Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, the other guys, what they're going to parlay that into.
I'm asking you the macro question of the people listening to this. You don't stick your nose in the finances of a whole bunch of other people in entertainment and elsewhere that you care about. It seems to only be athletes that you care about the money this way.
Well, I care about sports, but I care about sports more than those other entities. So, I mean, to me, it's just more interesting to see a guy like Jalen Hurts again, who is not expected to be not expected to be the best quarterback in the NFL, and most people probably don't think that he is, but he's certainly up there, and he's getting $255 million. And just how the whole position has kind of shifted, where it's not the traditional drop-back quarterbacks that we become accustomed to, that a guy like Jalen Hurts can get $255 million and be the highest-paid QB in the league. It just interests me. Money interests me.
You know, the difference, Dan, is every fan wants to play GM and construct their own team, and they want to have someone to blame when they don't have a player or two that is keeping them from a championship. And the easiest person to blame is like, oh, the selfish quarterback who wanted more money kept us from doing X, Y, and Z. And it's a narrative that I think we're kind of fed to us over our sports fandom lives. And so it's an easy out instead of like, oh, well, that GM, didn't scout out a third-round draft pick well enough or didn't trade well enough or whatever. It's easy to just point and be like, that guy getting paid the most money, it's his fault.
It's the path we follow, right? Because once upon a time, fandom was just Sunday. What happened on Sunday? And that's all I care about. But then you start to ask questions about, well, so-and-so was available. Why didn't we get so-and-so? And the reason why we didn't get so-and-so is because the cap situation is this way, or we didn't have a draft pick, or whatever it is. And so the interest in a transactional side at first came from a very healthy place. I'm just trying to understand why what happens on Sunday isn't what I want it to be. But as time has gone by, as you point out, Dan, it feels like what happens on Sunday has been replaced by the transactional. Like, people don't care about games as much as they care about what could happen. It's like the old Family Guy line of a boat's a boat, but the mystery box could be anything. It could be a boat, right? Everyone's in love with the mystery box as opposed to the actual thing that's right in front of them.
And I think there's such an industry behind it, especially in sports. But Dan mentioned that people don't care about it in entertainment. I'd say that just those details aren't readily available. Phoebe Waller-Bridge became super aggregated when it was discovered she hasn't created a show for Amazon, despite signing that $60 to $90 million deal, depending on where you read it. And she's not alone, by the way. This might be at the crux of the upcoming writer's strike, is plenty of entertainers like J.J. Abrams and Ray Romano have these mega deals where it's right of first refusal on these creative contracts to kind of keep them in-house and don't actually produce that much. And the studios want to kind of get out from under them.
It's also easier to nitpick a quarterback doing bad and pointing back at his contract. When you have an actor or somebody who has a bad movie, you kind of don't think about it. You're like, whatever. But they got paid $80 million for a shit movie.
I find a couple.
Kyler Murray, $46 million next year, Dan. Like, I laugh at that.
Okay, but I'm more interested, honestly, because I don't care what these people make in an industry that we all know is hugely popular, and the quarterbacks are more valuable than others, so they're getting a large percentage of it. If you gave it to me, I'd be vastly more interested in an annual report that tells me what the owners make. Stugotz is reeling a bit. He will try to do weekend observations anyway. We are getting inundated with people writing in about our new studio, and this seems to be a recurring theme. I'm just going to read some of the commentary here.
Great.
The new studio has put 25 pounds on my man Stu.
It's a terrible angle.
Stu is entirely too close to that camera. Don't do that to my guy.
Yeah, thank you.
Lordy, did Stugotz gain 20 pounds over the weekend?
Lordy.
Yeah.
Stu put on the COVID plus 55 pounds. Dang.
Plus 60, to be honest.
WTF happened to our guy? I would not want to sit at that camera angle myself. Stugotz, you are puffy, my guy.
I am, yeah.
Just a barrage.
Anything about you? Or
I mean,
just
evidently
me?
my
Yeah.
camera angles are okay.
Well, I mean, you have the entire table in front of you. I'm going to stand behind you. I need to bring an ab roller in here. Like, I got to get in shape. If this is the angle we're going with, I got to do sit-ups and crunches during every single break.
We got plenty of space back here.
There is a gym upstairs now that you have access to.
That's a bit too far. I mean,
An elevator to upstairs.
we'll see.
Let's
I
go.
need that key thing, you know?
Let's go ahead. The fob. Let's go
You
ahead.
have it.
You have
do?
one. Yes.
All
you do.
right.
Let's go ahead and do the weekend observations.
Great. The entire time with the camera on me.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Dan, it begins every year in the middle of April and goes on for what seems like a lifetime. Eventually, it will get so good that sports radio host will call it the most exciting thing in sports and never really tell us why. The reason for that is because, for the most part, we are lazy and have no idea how to discuss it. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, the greatest thing in sports that we don't know how to discuss and that no one really cares about, the NHL playoffs are back. You excited?
A lot of people care.
Debatable.
Stanley Cup playoffs. It's a fine.
Yeah.
Hockey's dead.
Which Stanley Cup?
Whoa.
Wow.
Said that.
Sarah Sivian's going to join us in moments to tell us that hockey is not dead.
Dan, you know what 6 points plus 9 rebounds plus 2 assists plus 1 steal plus 2 blocks equals?
No.
It equals Al Horford.
Playoff Al.
How about that? Celtics up 1-0.
They were
The
up
C's.
30 in that game.
I know. Listen, I'll be the first one to say it. The Boston Bruins will not hoist the cup.
Which cup?
The Bees. Lord Stanley.
Whoa.
Yep. Dan, the Knickerbockers.
How did it take this long? That's
all I got.
How is that possible that it went this long into the show without talking about a Knicks playoff road victory?
Jalen
Stig.
Brunson's two guys.
Oh, I know.
my
I'll get
God.
to him in a second. Columbus, Ohio. Thought I would have a lot of material for you today, but I have to be honest. Columbus, Ohio. Surprisingly cool city.
Nice.
Yeah. I was shocked too.
You discovered that, huh?
I did. Philadelphia 76ers. Do me a favor. Not a word until you make it to the conference finals. Seriously. Not a peep. Thanks. By the way, I just said I have to be honest. The truth is, I don't. Dan, you know what the C in Columbus stands for?
I do not.
Cool city. In fact, in the history of talk radio, I am number 1 on the list of people who don't have to be honest. Whoever the Dallas Mavericks general manager is should be fired.
Nico Harrison?
Fired. 90,000 plus for a spring football game. Hey, Columbus, Ohio, get a life. What happened there?
A life, one of you 90,000.
No,
Get a life.
90,000 of you.
They all need to get a life.
Unexpected spring game traffic in Columbus, Ohio. I was yelling at everybody.
You should have
Getting
heard
caught up in it.
Stugotz tried to explain to his wife, well, who are they playing? Well, they're just playing each
I
other.
mean, seriously, 90,000 plus. Jesus, Columbus. The horseshoe. It's nice. The horseshoe is nice. Really is. Death, taxes, and Giancarlo Stanton on the 10-day DL. Speaking of taxes, no idea what this means, but supposedly they are due tomorrow. Top 5 people in sports who, if they were accountants, would have the best nicknames. If they were accountants, would have the best nicknames.
Okay.
All right? Number 5, Chris Whittingham. By the book. Number 4, Shaquille O'Neal. The big Taxtus. Oof. Tough one. Robert Horry, number 3. What? Number 3, Robert Horry. Big returns, Bob.
This is a bad list.
It's getting
man.
worse as we go on.
Number 2, Stugotz. The big defaults.
That'd be a terrible accountant.
And number 1, Kyrie Irving. The big liability. I mean, come on. That is an outrage. The big liability?
You start with the Whittingham joke and then just try to squeeze in 4 more names?
Keep an eye on the Braves. The Bravos.
That's how he fends you
Keep an
off.
eye on them.
That's his.
Keep an eye on him.
That's his jab. It's his jab. If he's a fighter, keep an eye on the Braves.
Keep you back.
It stuns you.
They're great. What do you keep an eye on them?
Just keep an eye on them. That's all I'm saying. They're hot.
Stugotz.
Yeah.
What about Ian Book, the big write-off?
Ah, I love it. Should have consulted you. You know what the B in Rick Brunson stands for, Dan?
I do not.
Balls. Big, gigantic balls.
In Rick Brunson?
Yeah,
Who is Rick?
Oh, I have no idea.
Jalen's dad.
Jalen's
I watched my first Knick game over the weekend.
Well, I mean, technically,
Pretty good team.
Jalen came from Rick's balls, so.
Yeah, technically he did.
Yeah. Dan, the next time you make fun of me and Mike Ryan for taking the George Hill trade deadline day so seriously, you may want to think twice. Got 2 words for you. Jason Hart.
I'm sure that the Knicks
Lifelong Knicks fan
the Knicks
over
are
there.
going to win the championship.
I was just laughing. Sideways camera. Jiggling. Jesus Christ.
It's Josh
Hart.
by
Yeah,
the way.
like I was like, Jason Hart. This is the second time we've had that reference in the show.
Huh.
Josh Hart.
Knicks fan.
If you aren't rooting for the Sacramento Kings, you don't like sports. Dan, you know what the H in Jason Hart stands for?
Josh Hart.
It stands for heart.
With an E.
When's the last time you could say this? The baseball season's flying by.
You know what I saw this weekend? This was great. Cody Bellinger goes back to Los Angeles, and he gets a warm ovation.
Yeah.
Pitch clock violation.
Nice.
While he was like,
Oh, waving to the crowd. Get out of here.
That's incredible.
That's unfair. It's a heady play by the crowd, though. Right?
Amazing. No curtain calls.
Keep it going for Cody Bellinger.
the crowd should have done it for 30 seconds. He goes out and then goes right back to the dugout.
Strikes out.
3 strikes.
The O in Ohio stands for, oh, shit. I live in Ohio.
Wait a minute. You
What
said
happened?
it was cool. You said you liked
Columbus
it.
was. De'Aaron Fox growing up right in front of our eyes. He's good. Dan, you know what the B in Buckeye State stands for?
I do not.
But I still live in Ohio. Like, hey, Columbus, it's cool, but I still live in Ohio.
Do you like Ohio or do you
I
not
don't
like
know.
Ohio?
I mean, I have that
I think he likes
90,000.
Columbus, but Ohio not.
I don't think he likes Columbus either.
I liked it right up till 90,000 people showed up for a spring game, and I was sitting in traffic.
That's all it took.
Dan, you know that thing I'm always telling you about?
Yeah.
LeBron did the thing to the Memphis Grizzlies yesterday. The Grizz.
That
He's amazing.
In basketball, that was the one that I was like, oh shit. This weekend, where I was like, ooh, Memphis is pretty good, and they're pretty good at home, and woof, they just got drag.
How about Austin Reeves looking off LeBron to take on a double team
My
and
God,
then
he's good.
scream, "I am him."
And he is, right? I mean, he is excellent.
He's damn good, man. I was talking about him with Stan Van Gundy yesterday at the game. Everyone was very impressed.
I'll give it to him.
But seriously, Austin Reeves, if LeBron is open on the perimeter with a lane to drive to the hoop, what are you doing?
Oh,
Yeah,
dude.
you do not look him off. You give it to him, and he goes to the cup.
Goes behind the back.
The picture of LeBron, I don't even know who it is that's in the key, but the picture of LeBron getting the scoring title with a jumper, there is an anonymous Laker in the key asking for the ball.
Oh, it was
forever.
It's Thomas Bryant? Was
Yes,
it Thomas
it was
Bryant?
Thomas
Yeah.
Bryant.
Yeah.
Yes, he's calling for the ball in the paint on the photograph of LeBron breaking the scoring record.
That's like Michael Jordan's last shot against Utah. Steve Kerr's crashing boards. That picture of him like at full apex. Steve Kerr's
noticed
crashing
that.
boards. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you gonna do? It said tip dunk. That's what he's going for.
Austin Reeves, not your 18-year-old brothers, Matthew Dellavedova. Deli, the H in Hachimura. Am I saying that right?
Hachimura.
All right. Stands for huge testicles.
Just like Rick Brunson.
That guy had a game, man.
the Lakers looked good.
I'm still amazed that Florida is not prepared for rain. It's amazing. Got to give credit where credit is due. Chris Cody was right. There is something about these Florida Marlins. To Bob,
They're called the Miami Marlins.
our beloved engineer, who at one point was holding this place together with his fingers and who will be leaving us at the end of this week. Bob, we love you. A huge tip of the cap and a standing ovation.
Yeah. Also, Bob, my cue speakers aren't working. Gonna need you to extend that stay.
This studio is so big we can all stand up now. We couldn't do that before.
He's not dying, he's retiring.
That's what I didn't say he
said-
was
you said
dying.
he was leaving.
I didn't
Only
one
know,
major
Bob.
live event
I
after
said
that.
he was leaving us.
You said he was leaving us this
Take
week.
things to the worst place. I mean,
You took it.
It's a $50 fine, Dan.
exactly.
He's going to upstate New York. I mean, Buffalo.
Yeah.
Uh.
Might as well die.
What?
Buffalo! Yeah. Just leave it at that. I said earlier that I have to give credit where credit is due. The truth is, I don't. If there was a debate about who wins the NBA MVP, it should have been settled yesterday after we all saw what the Bucks looked like without Giannis. Right? Am I right?
He's pretty good. It's pretty important.
Lost to the Heat.
Pretty valuable.
Yeah.
That's how valuable he is.
I refuse to call Robbie Anderson Chosen Anderson. What was he chosen to do? Be a lousy wide receiver?
Oh, come on. Man.
He's terrible. In fact, in the history of sports radio, Dan, I am number one on the list of people who don't have to give credit where credit is due. Whoever wrote the headline for Pro Football Talk that read Bengals kicking the tires on tight ends before the draft, I love you. Russell Westbrook going 3 of 19 and pointing to his heart is peak Russell Westbrook. Every 5 years or so, or what? What happened there? Every 5 years or so, Kawhi Leonard reappears. Malik Monk is a Sacramento King. Did you know that? Be honest.
Yes.
You did? Oh, really? You're watching Kings basketball? You and Mike Scher?
This season has forced people to watch Kings basketball.
Chris Paul, you're truly the gift that keeps giving.
That's all I thought about yesterday.
Durant has now lost 7 straight playoff games.
He didn't score in the final 5 minutes.
All
He
I
didn't
thought
take a
about-
shot.
All I thought about was Stugotz down the stretch.
That's a great series for me. What an NBA weekend. Pretty certain it's a record. 4 of the 8 playoff series have already started. For the love of God, where the hell is Mercedes Lewis? Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
Stugotz said he enjoyed the headline, Bengals kicking tires on tight ends. The headline that I saw that I was like, you've got to be kidding me. There's not enough happening in the world right now that's apocalyptic that I'm getting this headline as well. Dalai Lama regrets asking boy to suck his tongue. Like, where the hell have we gotten that? That is one, and I know that there's video of that out there. It's about as disturbing as the headline is, and the Dalai Lama's people are saying that he is the playful sort, and that kind of playful, I think, is going to that headline, I'm assuming, is going to bother most people, and I'm also assuming.
Did you see the video?
Yes. Yes.
How'd you feel about it?
Yeah.
Yes, uncomfortable. But I wanted to put the Dalai Lama above this, and yet the church has made me not trust anything happening around holy men and kids. And so I don't want to believe the worst there, but it's hard not to believe the worst there.
I mean, it's a weird, it's an odd, it's a bad.
It's not something most of us would do.
Said.
It's in terms of fooling around. I don't think that that's something that many of
not
us.
Something,
Yeah.
I haven't.
Yeah.
Most of
I
us
wouldn't.
probably haven't.
Most not.
Yes, agreed. Stugotz says that no one cares about the hockey playoffs. I do not believe that he is right about this in any way.
I'm just saying, for the most part, no one, we don't know how to talk about it. We say it's exciting, but can't explain why. I mean,
Stugotz, I don't think you know how to talk about anything
good
today.
That's a great point. Yeah.
The two key players for your favorite team's first road win in ages, you got their names wrong.
Yeah, listen, I'll watch my second game coming up tomorrow night, and for now,
maybe pick up a first name or two.
Rick Brunson and Jason Hart.
Oh, that Rick Brunson.
Sarah Sivian of the Too Many Men podcast is going to come and inform us about all things hockey. They do a great job. And I suppose that you can keep saying it's a niche sport, but I don't feel like it is, Stugotz. I believe many people know and care about how crazy it is, that how physical, how fast it is. And last year, specifically, just so many close and dramatic games with giant stakes on top of them. I believe she's just returning from a Boston Bruins practice. And Sarah, let's start here. This is the best hockey team you've seen since blank.
Ooh, maybe the 70s Islanders, but we have to see what they do. Show me in the playoffs, as you will. And now there's a stomach bug going around the team. So checkmate to the Panthers there.
Checkmate?
Bishop to Rook 9.
Checkmate?
The Danish.
Checkmate? You might want to be careful with checkmate.
Are you saying upset Bruin?
Upset Tony.
Maybe. They might. What do you think?
The last time there was a team this good, I thought, didn't the Lightning have a team that was about this? Not 12 losses in a season good, but they got swept in the first round of the playoffs. That Lightning team, correct?
Exactly. There's the curse of the President's Trophy, and you saw that with the Panthers too, but it's just kind of this team is better. I mean, it's just they have had players go down and they still persevere. I think it comes down to the goaltending, honestly. I mean, obviously the Lightning had Vasilevsky, but this team is just from the top to the bottom. There's like several individual awards that could be won.
Doesn't it always, though, come down to the goalkeeping? Isn't that what makes
playoff hockey
that's
is all
what
about,
makes
Dana.
the hockey playoffs? I guess I don't know which one is more random, baseball or hockey. Once the playoffs.
Oh, I
arrive.
feel like hockey is probably right.
Yeah,
Like, you're not going to be surprised if the Bruins don't win this thing. No one's going to be surprised. That's just the nature of the hockey playoffs.
Upsets happen all the time.
And your thoughts are on what the Florida Panthers are bringing into the playoffs? Because I think all of us were surprised that after having the most offensive-powered team in their history and one of the most offensive-powered teams in the history of the sport, the Panthers got to playoff hockey, and all of a sudden it was very different. They're saying that this team is built for the playoffs better than that team was.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the bad vibes are gone and the pressure's off. And there is a lot to be said about the pressure being off. There's a lot to be said about Matthew Tkachuk, who, if Connor McDavid didn't exist, or if there was a runner-up trophy, which there might need to be until he retires, I think Tkachuk would get the heart. I mean, he's kind of dragged them to the playoffs. But then you have Hagee, too, who our girl Shayna loves and will talk your ear off about. I think he is somebody that could come up big in the playoffs. I am a little worried about the overall goaltending situation, but I kind of think the lack of pressure, especially going up again. I don't know if this is like a galaxy brain take, but I just think the lack of pressure is really dangerous.
I think a rhetorical trick that Mike has been doing with Tkachuk, and I'm not saying that he hasn't been great because he has been, but saying he's the best player not named McDavid, there's a gulf of difference between everybody and McDavid.
Yes. Absolutely. He needs another league. That's why I literally think there should be another trophy while he's in the league. I don't know. Participation trophies, I don't know. But I just think he's always going to win it. I think Tkachuk really had a chance this year.
What are the storylines that have you most excited as we're beginning the drama of this thing, which is just going to be crazy, as it always is?
I love the drama in the West with Jonathan Quick, that he went to the Vegas Golden Knights and now is crushing it on that team after he was on the Kings for his whole life, his whole career, and he had a great career. But nobody saw that trade coming, and then it was just he was upset about it, and now he's looking for revenge. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to the Kings. I think that's a young, fast team. The Canes without Andrei Svechnikov is hard, but I think it might be their year, dare I say. I don't know. We'll see.
You mentioned the Kings, and they're going up against Connor McDavid. And as great as Connor McDavid's been, there's still no Stanley Cup Finals appearance for him. And this is a really tough opponent for the Edmonton Oilers. I really like how the Los Angeles Kings play hockey. At what point are we going to start having the legacy conversations around Connor McDavid that we started having with Alexander Ovechkin? Because you just mentioned he needs a different league. He is playing hockey at a rate that I've only really seen Gretzky operate in my life. If he bows out in the first round to a really good Los Angeles team, is that legacy stuff that's starting to be floated around him?
He's the one talking about his own legacy now, too, which I really respect. He said, it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to be in the conversation with all these greats until I win a cup. And I think you just have to look at the horrible mismanagement of this Oilers team around him. Like, you really couldn't mess this up. And no offense. Well, all offense, but Ken Holland really did. And now we don't really get to see McDavid's greatness. And it's not like there's not really much more he can do. When you really look at how much better he is than everybody else, it really just goes to show that you do need a complete team to win in these playoffs. But the Kings took the Oilers to 7 games last season, and that was an amazing series. So watch out.
There are no shortage of opinions, strong opinions on Too Many Men. I will tell the audience that they should, if you care about hockey at all and you want to get a little bit smarter about hockey, you should listen to Too Many Men. But I do believe Sarah needs a little bit of coaching when she says, dare I say, I don't know, we'll see. That doesn't.
I love that.
It just doesn't.
You know what?
That
Maybe.
doesn't work for me. Yes, it doesn't work for me in the
You
take.
have to know
Hot
everything.
takes, okay.
Yes,
Yes.
it's not.
And you tell people what they're going to see.
It's not dare I say. I do dare say. It's not I don't know. It is I know. And we'll see. We don't have to see. I'm going to tell you before you see it. That's Tony's wheelhouse over there, even if he knows nothing. Like, you got to come in strong and bold with your opinions, even if you don't have that much conviction
Danish
about the
Gambino.
opinion.
Sarah,
Oh, no conviction whatsoever.
let me tell you right now, Sarah. The other day I said I don't know to a question that was pretty difficult about who's going to win in the NBA playoffs. And they said, no, that's not good. And I said, what do you want? They said, well, Charles Barkley bet $1 billion the other night that the Heat would win
That's
against
how you do it.
the Hawks. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for $1 billion bets here.
Yeah, what are the $1 billion bets? Give me some $1 billion bets, even though you don't want to be guaranteeing anything, and it's scary as hell to predict anything in hockey because it's just crazy. Everything happening out there, no one can predict anything. Do you know anyone who's actually good at predictions? Do you know someone in hockey who's good at telling you this is what's going to happen and that's what happens?
I would actually say myself. I said the Islanders were going to get in the playoffs. Everybody made fun of me and roasted me on Instagram. And here I am, right, once again,
There you
correcting
go.
my analysis. I said the Panthers were going to make it too, and they were fighting me on the podcast.
Yeah,
here we are.
You're winning
I
them
do
over.
think,
Quick learner.
let me
Keep
double
going.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bruins will win the cup, and the President's Trophy curse is over.
Whoa!
There it is.
See, I would have went Islanders going to win the cup. I would have taken it one step further. That's just me, but you did well. I mean, you really did. Congratulations.
Are the Islanders even going to get past the first round?
I don't think so.
Oh!
The opponent, they played the Canes before in the playoffs, and the Canes swept them. Not much has changed with the team except Sorokin. I think they're going to take them to 6 or 7 games, but the Canes will win.
I'll bet you $1 billion.
There it is.
Huh?
Okay.
Which is the series that
He's like, sure.
which is the series that we're all going to come away with, forcing ourselves to watch and loving hockey again. Last year, the Maple Leafs and the Lightning had a great series, and the Lightning dynasty was almost over in that first round. Do you think that that's going to be the series that we're all talking about, or anytime the Devils and Rangers get together, that's going to dominate the conversation?
Devils Rangers, hands down, especially because the teams are kind of similar in the way that they were having rebuilds and the fizzled out and everything. And now it's kind of back. And that draft where Jack Hughes and Kako went at the same time, and now that kind of reignited it. And now we'll see what I genuinely don't know. Like, I think any of them could win. And then you see the deadlines, right? Where the Devils got Meyer and the Rangers got everybody, Tarasenko, Kane, and like 5 million other people. So we'll see, did the one slick move push the Devils over the edge, or does doing a million things actually help the Rangers? I don't know. I think the Devils have a slight edge right now, but that'll be the one to watch. I just think with the Maple Leafs and like,
I don't know.
Billions. We
You
need
got to get
billions.
rid of the I don't knows. There can't be any I don't knows, Sarah. There can't be any of them. You're not allowed to have I don't knows. It's not the way the take business works.
okay, I will say if the Leafs do get past the Lightning in the first round this year, then they are going to win by 5 or fewer games.
I mean, you think if you can only have one series in basketball to watch in the first round, it is Golden State Sacramento. If you have one series, you can only watch one in basketball. Which are you choosing?
It's yes. I was going to say Suns Clippers is going to be really good because Kawhi versus KD is going to be amazing.
Over the Lakers, huh?
Over the Lakers because Ja's hurt, so that's a damper.
And Sarah, if I give you only one, I'm only allowing from as fun as the hockey playoffs can be, which is the one you're choosing?
Devils Rangers.
Look at that. All that New York bias. I hate
It always, every
I
single
hate
year
it.
that they have played each other, it has lived up to the hype. Yes, there's East Coast bias, but let's see if the West can prove us wrong.
Yeah. I don't know why I got hyped there.
I don't know why you did either.
Prove us wrong, Dan.
What was
It's the
that?
Stanley Cup playoffs, baby. It's the most
Mike-
exciting
Presented by Stanley
playoffs
Cup.
in sports.
Mike was so excited
Not
when
yet.
he just heard revenge. He just
I
heard
love it.
he just heard early in the
Vengeance.
segment there was revenge.
No, the storylines are fantastic, and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they're going to force you to stay awake past midnight to watch that series.
No, they won't.
Too Many Men is the podcast. If you want to get smarter about hockey, I strongly urge you to listen to what Sarah is doing with her colleagues and friends. Thank you, Sarah.
Oh, anytime. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
YouTube. You can see our old haunt there, the Clevelander Hotel. The Clevelander Hotel not happy with me because I said there were STDs in the pool. Not even an insult in Miami. I thought all the pools had STDs.
Is this your apology?
In Miami. Not really an apology, more of a clarification.
Feature, not a bug, really.
You could see the transition here to downtown where it is we're headed. And at some point in the future, Mike, I thought it would happen by now. Things have moved a little bit slower because Miami, because contractors in Miami, etc. But at some point, you will be able to find us regularly live somewhere, consistently, correct? That's headed in the future. I don't know when in the future, but at some point soon, you will be able to catch us live 4 or 5 days a week at an appointed time, correct?
Yes.
But that's all we can tell people.
That's all we can tell people right now, and I'm grateful that you stopped yourself short.
Mike really had that look in his eyes, like, "Don't you dare! Don't you do it!" You know, like.
But I don't know any. But I just know that it's scheduled to happen at some point in the future that I thought would already be now.
You got pets, Dan. You ever had that where the dog's about to touch something, like, don't you dare! No. That's how Mike was looking at you.
Babe.
A very important peg fell into place, and that was us moving into this
Bundy?
studio, and hopefully everyone likes it. That's a bad joke.
A Peg Bundy joke from
ahead and hit him
old
with it.
Amin.
Well done.
Most famous Peg. Name another one.
Peggy Noonan.
Let's.
Jeremy Taché just said under his breath, "Who the fuck is Peg Bundy?"
Yeah, married with children, a wife and
And he
married
doesn't
with
curse
children.
often.
Yeah.
Let's put on the screen for people. I just want them to see this because years ago I delighted. I was always putting on Highly Questionable for no reason in particular, a shirtless Jack Nicholson on a boat eating a hoagie. And it was just a wonderful tribute to Hollywood excess. Jack Nicholson having arrived in a place where he didn't have to care at all about anyone or anything in terms of optics. And the other day, Jack Nicholson was seen on his balcony for the first time in 2 years publicly.
Since the boat.
And it looked like he had just woken from a nap that had lasted the entirety of the pandemic. He's now 85. He's 80.
Look at that king.
He looks great.
Look at that king.
It's just like staring into the sun.
I love Jack Nicholson. I've always been a huge fan of his, and good for him to step out onto his balcony and have every single one of his suspicions over the last 2 years confirmed with how terrible we are. Because a guy literally can't go outside to his balcony without people being mean to him. I think he looks great, by the way, just because he didn't look that great 3 years ago. So I was pleasantly surprised. I think he looks like a king.
He looks like a really befuddled.
He looks like About
85-year-old
Schmidt.
king.
He looks like his character in About Schmidt. If you've seen the movie poster for About Schmidt, it's about that.
Another photograph that I saw this weekend that I found shocking, and you've heard me say this to Joe Thomas, you've heard me say this to Jeff Saturday. Hell, Mario Cristobal.
Wait, did he see his shadow?
If so, Lakers in 5.
Mario Cristobal, when he was an offensive lineman, used to have a body that was close to 300 pounds, and then these guys get away from football and they decide to eat in a way that is normal and human, and they don't look inflated. And Russell Okung was an offensive lineman who was 6'5", 310 to 320 pounds. And I don't know what he weighs now, but he looks like a yogi who might weigh about $160. He looks like he's lost about 150 pounds.
That can't be him.
That is him.
That can't be him.
I mean,
the courtesy is his Twitter account.
Yeah, but if you know what Russell Okung looked like, he was like 6 of those, like stacked on top of each other and wide.
I'm
It's
with
just
Tony.
crazy.
I don't believe it. I'm
it.
sorry.
it would be very hard for the picture that's on the screen of what looks like a 6'5", 160 or 170 pound man to think of him blocking in the NFL at that size, because he was literally twice that size. He looks like a skinny, thin yoga instructor.
He looks like
now.
he'd be a great wide receiver. I mean, he does.
I think he looks a little too slight to be a wide receiver.
He's not nearly big enough. He doesn't have much in the way of musculature. He does not look necessarily like an athlete, certainly not an athlete who is strength-based. It's a truly shocking photograph. And I know that you guys know this in general. That sport, deeply unhealthy. Just whether you're playing it or whether you're just preparing for it or whether you're enduring it, the number of offensive linemen who can't get their weight down there and then all of a sudden have a life because they're so used to eating the way they ate and then have all in their fascia all tied up, all of the surgeries, all of the injuries that make retirement and limping through retirement a real suffering. They all tell you you've got to, the only way to get rid of the pain of football is to remain some kind of active and lubricate the musculature, because if you become sedentary, you're doomed to a life of pain after 30 years old, you're going to spend the rest of your life in a form of pain. So we're going to try and get a hold of Russell Okung to talk to him about this weight loss, because I've never seen this. Joe Thomas got fit, but still looks like a giant man. Jeff Saturday got fit, but is still thick. This is a skinny person. This is a person that anybody would describe as skinny, and NFL offensive linemen don't tend to be that. Because I am grateful that you are here this weekend to give us your expertise on all things basketball. What do you make of the thing that Stugotz said, which is we're not used to seeing in the first round, in the first game, road playoff teams win? You've been saying this is a wide open NBA, the most wide open that you've seen, I think, in your lifetime, you have said. And so you see this weekend of basketball, you see the Lakers drag Memphis. Mm-hmm. Memphis was a good home team. You see Sacramento win at home. You see the Knicks beat the Cavaliers. I think the Cavaliers are better than the Knicks. I expect the Cavaliers to emerge from that series. But what did you find most interesting from the weekend's results?
Well, first and foremost, Sacramento, because they were down. They were down big, I think 10 or 12 points in the second half, and they came back and they were phenomenal down the stretch. De'Aaron Fox was incredible, and Golden State defensively isn't where they've been in the past, even last year. They got Gary Payton the second back. Obviously, Clay looks better than he did last year. Draymond's healthy and playing.
But not good defensively, right? Klay Thompson at this point is a liability defensively? Is he a liability?
I wouldn't say liability, but he's not what he was prior to the injury. And we talked about...
Which was the best two-way player in the game.
One of the best, absolutely. So we talked about this yesterday. It was me, Stan Van Gundy, and Tony Delk, and my buddy Omar. And we were Vinny Goodwill. Vinny Goodwill was there, not Omar.
So Omar wasn't there?
Omar was not there.
Where was Omar?
Yeah, what was Omar?
Omar was late. Omar got to the game late.
Classic Omar.
Classic Omar, yeah. But me, Vinny, Stan, and Tony Delk were talking about, because Stan told a story that Jason Kidd told him that as he got older, it wasn't that he couldn't get quick. It wasn't that he wasn't explosive anymore. He said, I couldn't stop. I had no brakes. And that's such a huge key in being able to be an elite NBA defensive player and really an elite NBA athlete, is the ability not to go very fast, but the ability to stop very quickly.
So funny that you say that, because it jarred me yesterday seeing Inglis try to move around on defense, and the way that he would get spun, he would just keep going the way that I would, keep going in one direction, not the direction where the defense was required.
Joe Ingles.
Same direction.
Joe Ingles.
I love calling him Inglis.
Yeah.
I'm doing it that way. I'm making him Hispanic every time.
Dan's always right.
Thank you.
But yeah, so with Clay, you can see that it's not so much, he's lost everything. It's that he can't change directions and stop on a dime, which is a huge part of playing defense. But overall for the Warriors, Wiggins is back, and he looked really good in the first half, and then he kind of got tired in the second half. Draymond, obviously, is excellent. Gary Payton's an excellent defensive player, but there is a level of togetherness you need to have, And they didn't have that. It wasn't cohesive. And that's because these guys haven't played with one another for quite a while.
You say that, but if Wiggins makes an easy, wide-open three at the end of that game, that's not what we would be talking about. We'd be talking about, oh, my God, that team's overwhelming when Wiggins plays.
That, or if Steph Curry makes that shot at the end, which Stan had a good chuckle. He said everyone said it was a good look, and it was a one-legged runner moving across his body. But that's for Steph Curry. We all looked at that. It's like, that's a good look for him. I don't know if he drops that, if the Warriors win that game, if the Kings are feeling as confident overall in themselves as they are right now that they completed that comeback.
But wouldn't you feel pretty good if you're the Warriors just losing that game on the road by 3 with those parts kind of coming back, right?
Yeah, that's the cruel joke of it all, right? Like for the Kings, they had to win that game,
right, in
order to continue feeling good about themselves and keep some momentum. For the Warriors, like, we'll play better next time, and that's it. They'll look at what they did in the second half and those breakdowns, particularly defensively, and they'll address them, and they'll come out with the same amount of confidence and belief. And the whole thing that's happening here is that it's leading into this place. Well, we already know in the 2-7 series, Ja Morant's hurt. He had a nasty fall. I don't know if it was his hand or his wrist or his fingers, but he fell, he got out the game, he didn't come back. We also know Anthony Davis had a scare. So already those two teams, which would be the next step for the winner of the 3-6, are already looking a little shaky. If you're the Warriors, everything is seemingly starting to align for them.
I did not watch the Lakers and say they look shaky. That is not the experience that I had watching the Lakers.
It was overwhelming until Anthony Davis kind of got scared or gave a scare or whatever. And then the other thing is, and we heard Desmond Bane talk about this after the game, if Rui Hachimura is going to shoot like that, we're going to let him shoot like that every game. The dude's like a 27% three-point shooter, and he made every three. Like, at some point, that's NBA basketball, playoff basketball. It's you're picking poisons. And if you're asking me, do I stop LeBron, do I stop AD, or do I let Rui Hachimura get off?
Austin Reeves, don't forget about Austin Reeves.
You have to stop him. He's unstoppable.
Austin Reeves is amazing. But of the performances we saw last night for the Lakers, the least replicable one is Rui Hachimura.
I'm stunned that the Lakers, with no assets, fixed what ailed them.
That's the key. Everyone's like, "Oh, they played so great." I'm like, "But they had the second best record in the league after the All-Star break." The bigger thing is they fixed everything without having to give up the farm, and I think Rob Pelinka deserves some credit for that.
type of person. I'll go to a baseball game, I'll throw on a cute little baseball shirt. Go to a football game, I'll wear a cute little football jersey. But these last couple weeks, I don't know what I'm supposed to wear to these like country club sporting events where everyone's dressed in like polos and stuff. It's very strange.
Can I give you a piece of advice that you're not going to like?
Oh, wow.
Just don't care. It's the easiest way. Your life's so much easier. Just, you know what? This is what I want to wear today. This is what I'm going to wear today. People don't like it. Bah. Just don't care. Your life is so much easier once you get to that point. You just go, wear what's comfortable, wear what you think is appropriate,
Billy,
but like, who cares?
The key to fashion is to not look like you're trying, but to have tried. And when you're wearing like the same outfit that like Elena Rybakina's wearing, you're like, she looks like she's trying too hard. She looks like she thinks she could play tennis, and I can't.
First of all, to hell with Jeremy Taché. You didn't even blink at Elena Rybakina, or I don't know if I said that name right, but you're gonna besmudge the name of Peg Bundy, bastard. Continue.
She's like one of the top-ranked tennis players in the world. And
Amin's judgment
holding
sometimes.
multi-segment grudges here. What's happening?
Amin's judgment sometimes, like he's with us like 98% of the time, and 2% of his judgment is just terribly flawed.
Flawed?
You were saying, Billy, please give us more fashion advice.
Well, teach me how to not care, Billy.
Well, the thing is, you have to actually not care, right? You slowly get there. You start not caring a little bit at a time until you eventually don't care at all. And that's the perfect time, because once you don't care at all, people will see you and they're like, does that person care? Why don't they care? Why do I care? I want to know more about that person.
I'm confused, Jessica. So you were wearing, what were you wearing? Like a tennis skirt or something?
I was wearing like workout clothes. Like I was wearing what I'd wear to play pickleball. And it felt like it was too much. And then I went there and people were in like dresses, and that felt weird to me too. I didn't know, it was lose-lose.
Did you have a sweater over your shoulders with the
No,
arms?
but my girlfriend did that I went with.
You can't wear
The TikTok girlies, they love to put the sleeves diagonal across the body now and tie it in the front.
Crossbody.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you can't wear a tennis outfit to a tennis tournament. You can't do it.
See,
You can't wear a golf outfit to a golf tournament.
Every man.
Hold on, what's a golf outfit?
First off,
Do you wear a helmet to a football game? I mean,
First off,
people
Stugotz,
do.
No, you
every
don't.
single
Not
man
me.
who goes to a golf tournament wears
With
a golf outfit with
Yeah.
the hopes that, like, oh, Max Homa just dropped out. We need a random stranger from the crowd to come in and tee off from number 5. Can you fill in for him? And this man will just randomly be there and be like, well, I happen to wear my golf spikes and a pair of slacks and a collared shirt and my ball cap, so I will.
You're
Polo
placing
shirt.
Homa better be early in the tournament.
The
He
polo
he
shirt
didn't play very well last weekend.
tucked in, and then a white hat. Always. Everybody. Look, I watch the Masters and stuff. Everyone in the crowd has that polo shirt tucked in and a white hat on to show everybody, look,
Listen,
I like golf.
You can go Billy's route, not care. That would be the route I would suggest, because I haven't cared in 30 years.
But there
okay?
needs to be some sort of distinction, right?
Yes.
You need to not care but not look like you, respectfully. You know what I mean?
He's gone too far.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Billy. Yes. No, I totally
Well,
understand.
then what am I supposed to wear?
But if you care, if you still care, and clearly you do, you cannot wear tennis outfit to tennis tournament.
But I can't
I'm
wear
just-
jeans.
Just trying to help you out.
You know?
I mean, yeah, why not?
I have a golf question for
Fair.
you guys, because I was young when this was the case. So like you're saying, everybody goes to golf tournaments and they're dressed like, if they're going to step in there, they have the white hat, whatever. Like on Sundays, did everyone back in the day always dress like Tiger? Like did everybody wear red on Sundays?
If they did, I was mocking you. I mean, I'm sorry.
Really?
Don't
Yes.
listen to him, Billy. Everybody had that red polo with the Nike swoosh on it. It was humongous. It was
But they
everywhere.
were wearing it to the tournament? Like people in
Yeah.
the gallery were wearing it?
Look at some of the pictures of him doing this right here on Sunday. And then in the background, there's a bunch of bros like, I'm
Again,
doing
it's
it
just
too.
a polo, though. It's not like it's a jersey where you're wearing a
No,
jersey
but that
to the
is a
game.
jersey.
No,
That's
that-
a
that's
if
a
there's a
Tiger
Tiger
polo.
jersey, it's that.
It might be the guy's work polo that he puts on
Nah.
Fridays. Like,
this guy doesn't know.
No.
Yeah.
what do you mean? I don't know.
How did
Real
we
golfers
become
know.
exactly right? How did we become the golfers?
You guys know that at this point on social media, there's basically nothing that you can say of any kind that isn't going to lead to people arguing about something.
That's not true.
Just look at Water Talk, Dan.
And this part I feel is fair when someone writes in, please, Milwaukee Bucks, save us from repetitive Dan Le Batard pointing out that the Miami Heat are an enigma and the analysis means nothing because of a sample size of one game. I haven't done that today, but I am someone who often does that, so I have earned that.
Congratulations on cutting me off at the pass.
But this is what what I'd like to ask you that I have earned as a follow-up to that. Someone saying that I'm repetitive and that the analysis is flawed because of a sample size that's insufficient. Have I earned this, which is the next comment, woke leftist lunatic? You can accuse me of that, perhaps in the post-game show, when we're talking to a reporter about Clarence Thomas being corrupt. But not there. My woke leftist lunacy does not make an appearance in my single game sample analysis of an NBA playoff game. Why is it that this is always there no matter what the conversation is? Why are you always there for me, sir, to call me a woke leftist lunatic when no one was talking about that? I wasn't even talking about the sample size. I wasn't even talking about the first thing.
It's the overall body of work. I mean,
look, I'll be the first to stand up here and say, look, Dan is not a leftist.
Where can I send him? What is available to us with the studio?
See, the joke is that Dan is woke. And
what happened to the DMV?
You have the penalty box, I think.
How about across the street?
I don't think we have time for that.
We don't have time to send him?
But we have a penalty box, and we can see if it's working.
No, the penalty box has stuff in there.
No, it's clean today.
Is it?
Good. Yeah.
No.
There
No,
may
it's
be a
good.
meeting in there.
Yeah, no,
but-
it's clean.
Let's leave it till
You can send him to the penalty
You
box.
could be the first
fully
one to
ready, we're
visit
being
the
told.
new penalty
Yeah.
box.
I'll break it in.
We have a
Fully
penalty
ready,
box?
fully operational.
Wow.
It's got the
Go
best
ahead.
view in the office.
I got my whiteboard, Dan.
2 minutes. Get out of here.
Oh, wow.
There we go. And now I can do a lap. Before.
Yeah, but hurry up because there's only a couple minutes.
Yeah.
I
Hurry up,
don't. It hasn't.
Just 2 minutes, huh?
Your woke leftness lunacy has not yet poked its head. But I will ask you, Kevin Love had a tremendous game. What kind of adjustments does Milwaukee make? Do we see Myers Leonard out there? Do you think it's time for Myers Leonard?
I didn't
think
even
it's time?
realize he had survived the
10-day
Milwaukee
contract.
Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks licked their finger, put it up in the air, gave 10 days to Myers Leonard, and said, "Let's see how the anti-Semitism flies." And now Myers Leonard continues to be on the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't believe that he's going to get very much playing time in this series.
So no, huh?
I don't think so. Although I didn't think Kevin Love would be draining threes from a distance.
That was wild.
That's what happens when Giannis goes out.
It was wild how good he was.
Culture, baby.
Yeah. The Giannis thing is important, Jeremy. I feel like
They were winning by a lot when Giannis went out.
what I will say
Playing
is
pretty well.
it was really cool
Kevin
to
Love
see.
John charges.
It was really cool to see Jimmy Butler do that again. He really is a different guy in the playoffs. I can't really explain it other than just subscribe to the myth and the legend. That's who he is in the playoffs. Playoff Jimmy is a real thing.
I think it was a classic Spanish defense by the Bucks. They came out and said, "Hey, look, we'll give the Heat the first game. Giannis hurt his back. He can sit out for them. Let's see what happens. Ooh, Tyler Hero broke his hand. All right, let's sit him out more. Let's see what happens. Game 2, here we go."
I don't want to disparage the good city of Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee. Never been there, but I'm sure it's great. Why did Goran Dragic sign with the Bucks to just live in Milwaukee and not play?
Great point.
It's a good question.
I haven't liked his decision making these last 2 times.
He has made a lot of decisions. While Mike Ryan has continually thought, well, he's all about the Heat. He loves it here. Goran Dragic has picked not the Heat about the last 8 stops of his career.
The last time he was available, I had a mean text him a video of me speaking in Slovenian, begging him to come back home.
You speak Slovenian?
What?
Wait.
I think that answers everything.
That may explain why it is that he has not come back to Miami. He's like, I don't want to, in
Left
Milwaukee,
me on
they're
red.
not going to do that to me.
I imagine he thought he'd win a ring there, Billy. No?
I mean, we all did.
Right.
And then a back contusion later, we all have our questions. Although Giannis will be
contusion,
fine.
please. Give me a break.
I've seen that guy's leg almost pop off in an NBA Finals, and then he ended up playing the best basketball I had seen in the finals in several years.
I saw during the playoffs a lot of commercials for Arby's, and I wanted to
They have the
ask
meat
you
still now.
guys, in the marketing meeting, do you think that they thought it was a genius idea? We have the meats as a slogan.
It's working. They have their best year ever.
That's true.
Yeah, look it up.
You can look it up because you're making that up. And
No, he's right about
They
that.
do make
Billy-
the sandwiches with the King's Hawaiian.
Billy, what do you mean he's right about that?
Well, he's
What-
right.
How do you know he's
Look
right
it up.
about that?
You know how Burger King has that Whopper song that is now like there's so many people are buying Whoppers out the wazoo now. Whoppers having their best year of ever.
True too.
Do you think Arby's had a version that was just like meat, and it didn't pass the focus room?
Well, I mean, I can't imagine a lot worse than we have the meats. Like, I don't.
It's a great slogan, Dan. No,
It
you're
is?
off on that one. Yeah,
It's
You're
great.
off on
It's
that one.
catchy.
Only if Vin Rames says it.
I mean, it's not catchy.
But they have the meats, though, Dan. That's the thing.
But it
They
is
have
word
the meats.
association. They have the meat.
It's the voice that makes it catchy. It's not the words.